What's up, everybody? Coming to you today in an extraordinarily blue and extraordinarily comfortable sweatshirt. I've decided to do this video, the Ego Answers Director's Cut. And what I thought I'd do, rather than do a full Q&A video and blah, 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 I'd just go back through the Q&A videos that I've already done. I saved all the questions that I thought were good at the time, and I've kind of skipped around through those over the last couple of videos I've done. So I picked out a few that didn't make the cut the first time, and then added in a few that I've gotten since then. So after I've made those videos, people have sent me comments or questions via PM or email or whatever. And I figured I'd just answer a big bunch of questions so that the next time I choose to do one of these, I can start with a clean slate, fresh group of questions, and people don't have to feel like they have to ask me the same shit over and over again. So, starting out with this one. Who was your first girlfriend, and what was she like? I'm kind of torn as to whether or not to tell the whole story about this one or not, because I don't think it's a particularly interesting story, if I'm honest with you. So I think I'm just going to give you kind of an abridged version. My first girlfriend was a girl named Tammy. And I call her my first girlfriend. I had had crushes on girls before, but the first girl that I would have said that I had dated. And a lot of people would, take issue with me because it started in high school. And you don't actually have girlfriends, and whatever. I consider it my first relationship, my first girlfriend. Her name was Tammy. I met her the first day of my sophomore year, and I was actually sitting in the drama room after school on the first day of school. And my friend Morgan came and sat down next to me, and he was like, "Dude, have you met my girlfriend?" And I said, "What? I didn't even know you had a girlfriend." He said, "Yeah, man, that's her right over there. That's Tammy." And he pointed across the room at this girl who was standing in this group of other girls laughing and having a conversation that I couldn't quite overhear. And, I remember it being like a really cheesy 80s movie. Like, at first I couldn't tell who he was pointing at. And then when I saw who he was pointing at, it was like... it was one of those cheesy moments. I just knew I had to know this girl. And I wasn't even concerned in that moment with the moral obligation that I had to a friend that was dating this girl. I just knew, I knew in my mind, I looked at her and I was like, she's way out of my fucking league. There's no way that this girl would ever even look at me, much less, but I just wanted to know her. She was just... like I said before, I'd had crushes on girls up until this point, but when the first time I saw her, I was just like, she's perfect. You know what I mean? Everything about her is she had long hair, and the way she dressed. She wasn't like a super girly wearing a sundress type of girl. She was kind of tomboyish, and I've always gone for that type of girl over the super hair's done up and nails are done and shit. As it turned out, later on in the semester, a couple weeks down the line, she ended up transferring out of one of her classes, and we ended up in Spanish together. And then we had drama together, so we got to know each other, and we became really, really close friends. Of course, I was friend-zoned really hard. Secretly, I was madly, madly in love with her. But, we were really close. We got along really well. We were compatible in that way, at least. And luckily for me, Morgan... was a guy that fell in love at least 2 or 3 times a month. Not to speak ill of the guy, I love him to death, but he was a guy that he would fall in love with a girl, he would think they were dating. In this case, Tammy didn't even know that they were dating. When I asked her about it a couple of weeks later, she was like, "What?" She's like, "No, Morgan and I hang out, but we weren't." And I was like, "Oh." And in my mind, I was like, "Oh yeah, okay, I must have heard wrong." But inside, I'm like, "Yes." Thank you. And of course, Morgan was heartbroken, when he found out about this. And then a week later, he had this other girl he was madly in love with. So, all through sophomore year, I remained in the friend zone really, really hard. And then finally got up the courage. Well, actually, I used our mutual female friends to kind of put the feelers out for me. Very high school thing to do, by the way. I would ask them, find out if look, I like Tammy. Find out if Tammy has any feelings for me or thinks that there's a possibility that we could ever, be a thing. And they would never come back to me with good news. It was never like, oh, I think she might be interested. It was always like, look, she's just not, she doesn't want a boyfriend right now. You know, they would try to be really nice and tell me that this girl had no interest in me. And I didn't listen to any of them. And we got, you know, but it ended up by the end of sophomore year when we were going into that summer, Tammy and I were really close friends. We were like best friends. And I finally, like, over that summer, got up the courage to talk to her about it. And I said, look, I want to say something. I don't want things to be weird between us. And she instantly got this look on her face. I think she knew. Like, I don't think women are oblivious when guys are in the friend zone. I think she knew, and she was, like, mortified that I was bringing it up. But I said, look, I don't want things to be weird between us. I just want to let you know that I really like you. And not just as a friend. I have feelings for you. And I want to get it out there. I know that, you know, you're probably not interested, and that's cool, and I don't want this to fuck with our friendship. And then she interjected and said, well, that's exactly, she said, I just don't want a boyfriend, and I don't want to mess up our friendship. I really, you know, value our friendship, and I just am not dateable right now, and I don't, you know what I mean? And so I took it pretty hard. I mean, to her face, I was like, okay, well, I just wanted you to know. I'm sorry to make things weird. And then I went home and... you know, for like an hour into my pillow. But I didn't take the hint. And over that summer, physically I changed. I was a roly-poly, kind of shortish little fat kid at the end of my sophomore summer. And then my junior year, I had a growth spurt. And I'm not saying I came back like a slim, trim, you know, good-looking physique type of guy. But I did. I grew a few inches, and you know, leaned out a little bit and started to look more like a fat adult rather than a little fat 13-year-old. And I came back, and over the junior year, I still, you know, like it was during my junior year that other girls started to show a little bit of interest in me. Girls that were kind of friends or acquaintances would, you know, make a pass at me or say something or flirt with me at a party or something, and I just was completely disinterested. Like, I wanted nobody but Tammy. Like, I had no eyes for any other girl. And so I passed up, I'm not saying I was drowning in opportunity here, but I passed up opportunities to have a more normal high school experience in favor of carrying the torch for Tammy. And about halfway through junior year, things started to change between us a little bit. She still was friend-zoning me really hard, but when we were in private, we started to get more intimate. We never had sex, but like, she would cuddle with me, and then cuddling led to kind of holding hands, and then kissing would happen, but never in public, you know, never like when we were amongst friends. And so I was completely and utterly confused, and I won't go any further into the story because it's basically how our relationship ended up. Where eventually I confronted her about it, and she said, yes, okay, I have feelings for you, but I don't want to fuck things up, and I'm all fucked up in the head, and I don't want to mess up our friendship, but yes, I have feelings with you, I just can't date you because you know. And so she kept me in this weird limbo position all through high school, and then right after high school ended, she called me and told me, she told me basically everything I'd ever wanted to hear all throughout high school from her. She said, look, I want to let you know that I want to be with you. And you've said in the past, and I used to tell her things like this. She said, you said in the past that you think I'm ashamed of you because of the way that you look. I want you to know that I'm attracted to you. I'm not ashamed of you. I'm going to be so proud to tell everybody that we're together. And I'm on the other end of the phone going, you know what I mean? She goes, but I need this summer. I need to take this summer to make sure that this is real, and I need you to do something for me. I need you to leave me alone this summer. I need to be without you so that I can be absolutely sure that what I'm feeling for you is the real thing. Because she said, if we date, it's not going to be like, oh, we're dating, we're going around, we're, you know, she's like, this is a big, serious thing. She's like, if we actually do get together, it's going to be very serious for me, and so I hated the idea of not talking to her for months on end and waiting more. But I was like, at this point, I just said, look, I've waited for you since the first day I saw you sophomore year. And if this is what you need, I'll be here. Like a chump. You know what I mean? Like a chump. Hey, Um, I said, I'll be here. I said, if this is what you need, I'll be here. I'm not going anywhere. You just call me when you make your mind up. And summer came and went. To make a long story short, summer came and went. I never heard from her. And then eventually in the fall, I called her on the phone, pissed, that she had not, because at that point I knew she had made her mind up, And so I called her all pissed off, and she answered the phone like nothing was going on. She was like, hello? And I was like, yeah, it's Paul. And she goes, oh, hey, yeah, long time no, how have you been? And I was like, you know what, Tammy, you treat me like a piece of shit. She goes, what are you talking about? I said, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I said, we've been friends for years now, and are you going to pretend that the conversation we had at the beginning of summer didn't take place? I was like, I've been waiting around for you for years and years and years. And I understand that you've made your choice, I just thought that I deserved an answer. And I guess I was wrong on that. I thought that you would have at least the wherewithal to call me and tell me that, you didn't want me. And I guess I'm not even worth that to you. You treat me like shit, and I'm sorry to have bothered you. We can go back to not talking now. And I hung up, and that was pretty much the last time I ever spoke to her. So yeah, it was a nasty kind of first relationship, really weird and confusing. But she was outside of that, she was a really nice girl, and just I think a little bit outside of my compatibility zone, I guess. I don't know. Paul, I've seen the videos where you rap, and you're pretty good for a white dude. LOLOLOLOLOLOL. Could I make a request? I'd love for you to pick a favorite rap verse of yours and deliver it in the style of a paulsego rant. Thanks. Please, 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 please. I'm not 100% sure what you're asking me to do, but because I'll take any opportunity to rap or whatever, I think this is what you're asking me to do. You're asking me to take a favorite verse of mine, of somebody else's, and deliver it not like in the style of rap, but deliver it like I'm delivering like a heated paulsego rant video. And in that case, I am cancerous. So when I diss, you wouldn't want to answer this if you responded back with a battle rap I wrote for cannabis. I will strangle you to death and then choke you again and break your fucking legs till your bones poke through your skin. You beef with me? I'm going to even the score equally. I will take you on Jerry Springer and beat your ass legally. See, I get so blunted off that funny homegrown because when I smoke out, I hit the trees harder than Sonny Bono. Some people say that I've never done drugs. See, that would mean I lie and get fucked more than the president does. Hillary Clinton tried to slap me and call me a pervert. I ripped her fucking tonsils out and fed her sherbet. My nerves hurt. And lately, I'm on edge. I grabbed Vanilla Ice and ripped out his blonde dreads. Every girl I've ever gone out with has gone les. Follow me and do exactly what the song says. Smoke weed, take pills, drop out of school, kill people and drink and jump behind the wheel like it was still legal. I'm dumb enough to walk into a store and steal, so I'm dumb enough to ask for a date with Lauryn Hill. See, some people only see that I'm white, ignoring skill because I stand out like a green hat with an orange bill, but I don't get pissed. Y'all don't even see through the mist. How the fuck can I be white? I don't even exist. See, I get a clean shave, bathe, go to a rave, die from an overdose, and then dig myself up out of my grave. My middle finger won't go down. How do I wave? This is how you're supposed to teach kids how to behave? I think that's what you were asking for anyway. Perfect timing for the phone to ring. Hello. How's it going? Oh, good. Making a YouTube video. The usual. Well, no, I'm in the YouTube video talking to you while you're on the phone in the YouTube video. Yeah. You feel like a fly on the wall of a fly? I don't even know what that means. Okay, well, I tell you what, let me let you go, and I will talk to you when you get home. How's that? No. I love you, honey. Bye. Sorry about that, guys. It happens. You know, it happens. What are you going to do? So anyway, yeah, with the rapping, I think that's what you were asking for. And if not, well, I enjoyed doing it. So whatever. What do you think a good first date is? How have your first dates gone? I've said in the past that I am never really dated, except with the exception of my wife, who I didn't know before we started dating, really. Other girls that I've been in relationships with have been girls that I've known for a long period of time. So there was never that kind of awkward dating. But my first date with my wife was pretty bad. I drove a really shitty car at the time we started dating, and I was really embarrassed of it. And so I asked my friend Waylon, interestingly enough, who was a roommate of mine at the time, if I could take his little Honda Del Sol, because it was, you know, it was a nice little car and it had a really loud stereo system in it, and I thought it would make me look really, really cool. And so I drove up to her house to pick her up in a little Honda Del Sol, and we got in, and I said, well, let's go eat. Where do you want to eat? And she said the name of a sushi place. Now I fucking I hate fish. And I despise the idea of eating anything raw. You know what I mean? It just skeeves me. Like, the idea of eating raw fish with unflavored rice wrapped in fucking seaweed makes me want to puke. But I didn't want to, it was the first thing out of her mouth. She loves sushi. And I was like, holy shit, I don't know how to order sushi. So I'm panicking. And I was like, okay, sure, yeah. So I drive us to a fucking sushi restaurant. The whole time I'm freaking out. How am I going to eat this shit? I want her to think I'm cool. I don't want her to, I don't want to be like, no, shoot down her first fucking choice for food. I want to buy her the food she wants, but what the fuck can I eat? And so we get there, and it's one of those sushi restaurants where you sit up at a bar and the little dishes come by, filled with salmon eggs and fish guts with a little dollop of, tadpole shit on the top. Oh God! And it's going by, and I'm like, I'm starting to feel sick already, just looking at it. And she grabs a couple of things, and I was like, look, I'll be honest, I don't really eat sushi all that often. Can you help me pick something? And she goes, oh yeah, sure, I'll get you. And something came by, and she grabs it, and it's this slab of fucking raw fish. Raw ass fish with a little slice. It looked like lemon rind or something. I don't know what the fuck it was, but it was huge. And I'm watching her eat, and she just kind of picks it up and dips it a little in a sauce and just pops a whole thing of sushi in her mouth. And I was like, here we go. So I put this thing in my mouth, hoping that it wouldn't taste like it looked. Pop this thing into my mouth, and sure enough, it's just a slab of uncooked fish meat with a lemon rind on it. And I couldn't get it to go down my throat. I could not swallow it. Every time I moved it towards the back of my tongue to put it in position of swallowing, because I thought for a second, I'm going to stop chewing this because the texture of it is awful. It's horrifying how bad this texture is. So I'm just going to swallow it. It's slimy enough to where I think I can just glork it down, and then maybe, eat one more and I'll be done. But every time I brought it to the back of my mouth to swallow it, it was like my throat closed and my stomach would heave. And finally, after minutes of her talking, and I'm just like, I finally got this thing to go down my throat, and almost it got right here, before it enters your stomach, but it's still kind of there. It got right there, and then my stomach heaved up. And luckily I hadn't eaten anything because I was nervous about the date anyway. So there was nothing to it, but it just it was a big verp with stomach acid and a big chunk of raw fish meat in my throat. It was the worst fucking thing ever. And then we decided we were going to go see a movie, and we went and saw A Mighty Wind, which is a mockumentary. It was funny, but it was one of the most awkward things I've ever done, because it turns out that she was a little weirded out by the whole first date thing too. And she's told me now later, she got up to go to the bathroom about 6 times over the course of this movie. And about, a quarter, maybe 3/4, or maybe a halfway through the movie, I made the move and decided to try and hold her hand. Sure, her hand was up on the armrest, I put my hand on her hand a little bit, and she instantly got up and went to the bathroom. And she was back and forth to the bathroom like 5 fucking times. Then after the movie, she was like, "Oh, do you have any tattoos?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've got a tattoo." And I showed her my tattoo on my arm, and I thought, okay, well, at least I won some points there. And she goes, "Oh, I really don't like tattoos. Like, everybody seems to have tattoos." And I was like, this is the worst fucking thing ever. So I ended up just taking her home. I thought it was an awful fucking date. I fully expected her never to call me again, and I certainly wasn't calling her. Like, there was just no fucking way that was going down. And, I guess luckily for me, she called me like the next day. And the next time we hung out, because I wasn't forced to eat a slab of fish, guts, and forced into the weird situation with her pissing every 5 seconds in the movie, she told me in the movie that she was like panicking because she thought she was being awkward. She thought she was being so awkward and that I noticed it, and she was considering leaving the theater and calling a friend to come pick her up and just leaving me there and never speaking to me again. But it worked out. Our next date was a more intimate setting. It was like she hung out at my house, and it was a lot better. When I didn't have to chew down fish guts. But yeah, no, I think first dates are pretty much universally supposed to be bad. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people have really great first dates. I don't know. But in my life, the whole idea of a first date is pretty pretty fucking scary. You mentioned in one of your past videos that you enjoy reading. Has any book you've ever read had a profound effect on who you are or drastically changed your outlook on life? I love reading. I'm not a big nonfiction reader. I tend to prefer fiction. And there are a couple of different answers that I could go with on this. I've read a few books, but the one that I feel like I really want to go with, the one that really, it's a fiction book. It's called Johnny Got His Gun, and it's by a guy called Dalton Trumbo. It was written, I believe, in the 60s. And it is it's basically like an anti-war book. I don't want to give too much of it away, but it really solidified me as an anti-war person. I was raised in a household that was very anti-war. Both of my parents grew up in the kind of protest movement in the 60s and the Vietnam War and all of that. And my mom specifically had always drilled into my head that war was this ugly, awful thing. But reading that book made me a guy that can never, ever, ever justify war, unless it's in the most extreme circumstances one could possibly imagine. It just makes all these wars that have been fought in my lifetime look like such laughable wastes of human life. And on top of that, it's a great story, and it's really well written. So if you have any interest in that, Johnny Got His Gun by Dalton Trumbo drastically changed my life. What is the kinkiest thing you've ever done, been asked to do, or asked someone to do to you? I'm not really that kinky of a guy, if I'm honest with you. I kind of subscribe to the Howard Stern school of sex. I listen to a lot of Howard Stern, and whenever he talks about sex or talks to somebody who does kind of kinky things in sex, he always says, like, why do you bother? Like, why do you need to add all that other stuff into sex? Isn't sex like almost too much for you as it is? Like, why would you want to add like riding cry? And I'm not, look, if you're into some shit that I don't think I'm dogging on it. Do what you do. Do whatever it is you want to do. I couldn't care less, and love the fact that you get to, but I'm not a super kinky guy. My ex, one time, was messing around and said, "Oh, you should tie me up," and I kind of went along with it. I was like, "Oh yeah," because I'm like a real bondage master, and I'm real stern and demanding. yeah, let's do that. And then we ended up talking about it and ended up going down this road a little bit. And she kind of revealed to me that she'd always wanted a guy to, like, tie her up and, like, tease her with different implements, like ice and like, anyway, it did not go well. Suffice it to say, we ended up trying it. And it was the most, I couldn't stop laughing through the whole thing. And at one point, she's like, you laughing through this makes it completely unsexy. I was like, I'm sorry. It's just such a ridiculous situation. Like, this doesn't, and so it ended up not working out. But I guess, I mean, I know that's pretty tame by internet standards, but I guess that would be the kinkiest thing I've ever attempted to do. I don't even know if I could say that I did it, because I failed so miserably at trying to do it. Let's see here. You are such a worthless fat piece of shit. People like you who aren't proud of this country make me fucking sick. If you hate it so much, then please leave and go to some shithole country and die of malaria or some shit. You could easily toss a comment like this off, and this is, I think I got this via PM recently. You could easily toss a comment like this off. But I think, honestly, if I really step outside of myself and set the ego aside a little bit and really allow these words to affect me and come up with a real answer to this, rather than just brushing it off and calling, this person an asshole. And so I really thought about this and really allowed these words to soak in. And the answer, I think I came up with a pretty succinct answer. I think I did pretty good. As I was thinking about it today, I thought, here's the answer. I thought, yeah, 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 oh, yeah, 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 me, 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 ho, 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 ho. Ha 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 tra la 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 yeah 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 tra la 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 and furthermore, tra la 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 ho 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 ha 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 ho ho ha ha ho ha ha tra la 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 la. What was the sickest you've ever been? I'm sorry if you made a video about this. I just recently got into watching your videos. Keep up the good work. What's the sickest I've ever been? I got mononucleosis once. It's hard for me to, because sick to me implies like a virus or a bacterial infection or something. I'm sorry, I just moved. I just moved right along after the Trollolol song, but what are you going to do? What else is left to be said? When I think sick, maybe, I said on my videos a while back that I had my my gallbladder removed and an umbilical hernia repaired, and that was pretty bad. But when I think of sick, I think of like coughing, throwing up, and mononucleosis. And I don't know if any of you out there have had this. I'm sure some of you have. But I've heard it varies from person to person in intensity. I caught mononucleosis in high school at a party, because not in a fun way. They call mononucleosis the kissing disease. I didn't even get it in a fun way. I got it because I drank after some chick that ended up getting it, and then I, caught it from her. And mononucleosis for me was motherfucking awful. I mean, it was the worst fucking shit that ever happened to me. And there's a funny story attached to it, which I'd love to share with you. At the time, I was in high school, like I said, and I was working at a Blockbuster, a video store. And I woke up that day and got ready for work, and I noticed I was feeling real kind of gross. Throat was kind of scratchy, and just kind of feeling a little down in the dumps, and I ended up going into work anyway. And after I got to work, after being there for a couple of hours, I noticed I was feeling really, really bad. Like, and like it just got worse and worse and worse to the point where I was like sweating. And at one point, my manager walked over to me and said, "Paul, are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm not feeling all that great." And she goes, "Well, like, how long are you here?" I said, "I got like 5 more hours on my shift." She said, "You need to go home." She's like, "You look awful." And, it's rare in a retail setting for somebody to like send you home, because they're so desperate to have people come and work their full fucking shifts. But I must have looked awful. And so by this time, it was like getting into evening, or actually it was pretty late, because I think I was working the closing shift that night. So it was like, 9 or 10 o'clock at night by the time she sent me home. And I was hungry. I felt like I could eat something and that might make me feel better. And so I drove by Jack in the Box on my way home, and I got like a jumbo Jack and some fries and a soda. And I go home, and I get home, and my parents at this point in time, they were out of town somewhere. They had gone on vacation or something, and they had left me and my little sister home by ourselves. I was well past the point where they had to get a babysitter or whatever. They just were like, no parties, no blah. They had rules, but we were allowed to stay. I think it was 17 or something by this point. And I got home, and all I wanted to do was eat this fucking Jumbo Jack and fall into my fucking bed and just sleep for the next, 48 hours. That's all I wanted. I walked into my house, and I noticed that it was, real dark, and my sister was nowhere to be found, but I was like, I don't care. Walked into my bedroom, and I flipped the light on, and I was greeted with a sight that a lot of teenage guys would be excited about, but I was so fucking sick. Well, excited about most of it, not my sister being involved, but I flick on the light, and there are 3 teenage girls, not counting my sister. My sister was on the floor next to the bed. 3 teenage girls, 14-year-old girls, in my bed, passed out, and there were signs of lots of drinking strewn around the room. There were beer cans and cheap, Carlo Rossi wine bottles, and it's obvious that my sister had a bunch of friends over. They'd gotten really drunk really fast, and they'd all decided for whatever fucking reason to pass out in my room. Now, normally, I would have seen that, and I would have been like, okay, fine, fuck it, let them, I'll go sleep on the couch, or I'll go sleep in her room, and blah, blah, because I wanted to be a cool brother, but at this time, I was like, no. I'm so sick, I just want to sleep in my bed. And so I woke my sister up, and I said, look, you need to, I don't know what happened, and I don't care. You need to get these girls up out of my room and take them up to your room. You have a bedroom. Take them up there. Guys, pass out up there. I'm sick. I need my bed. Please, just get up. And my sister woke up and was fucking belligerent. Said, fuck you. Fuck you. We're fucking passed out. If I came home and you were passed out in my room, I wouldn't fuck with you. And I said, look, I understand that, but I need to sleep in my bed. Could you please get your friends out of my room? Please, I'm just asking you this favor. I'm so sick. Please just let me be in my bed. I need to be comfortable in my bed tonight. Please. Fuck you. She's belligerent. And I said, look, here's how it's going to go down. I've got my Jack in the Box. I'm going to go out on the front lawn, and I'm going to sit on the lawn, and I'm going to eat my hamburger and my french fries, and I'm going to drink my soda. By the time that I'm done eating my meal, you and all these bitches are going to be out of my room and up in your bedroom. I tried to ask nicely, so now I'm just telling you how it's going to be. That's what's going to happen. You're going to remove these girls from my room and take them to your room. And she had this stunned look on her face, and I did exactly like I said. I walked out of my room, walked out in the front yard, sat down, on the grass opposite my car that was in the driveway, and started eating my french fries. And about, 2 or 3 minutes later, I'd only eaten a few french fries and maybe a bite of my hamburger. My sister comes out, and she's thrown on like a pair of pajama pants or something, and she is fucking loud and obnoxious and belligerent. She goes, "You don't fucking come in and call my friends bitches. Who the fuck do you think that you are? You motherfucker. You don't come fucking tell me what to do. You're not the fucking boss." But, just being a fucking typical belligerent, angry, drunk asshole. And I was so done. I was so done. So I'm sitting there, and I've got my hamburger in my hand. And she goes, I dare you to call my friends bitches again. I dare you. And she's, getting uncomfortably close to me. And I'm sitting Indian style on the ground. She's still standing up, all hunched over, kind of looking at me. And so I thought about it for a second and very unceremoniously said, your friends are drunk bitches. Now what? And right after I said that, my sister reared back and slapped me in the face. Now, at this point, I had a few options. And I weighed them very quickly in my mind. I said, can't hit your sister, so let's get rid of that. Can't really tackle your sister or bodily pick her up because that's going to make a lot of noise. Somebody's going to call the cops and see it happen, and then my dad is going to come home and have a fucking fit because there's alcohol all over my room. It's all the way bad. And then I started taking stock of what I had. I said, okay, I'm on the grass. I'm sitting Indian style. I've got a soda. I've got some French fries, and I've got this hamburger. That sounds about right. So I stood up very slowly, hefting the hamburger in my hand, and she's rolling her, doing the teenage girl thing. Yeah, I told you, motherfucker, not to say anything. You had a fuck. And right in the middle of a sentence, I reared back with this hamburger. And as I turned my hand like this, the top bun fell off, exposing all of the gooey tomato and onion drippings and pickle. So that I go like this. The top bun just naturally falls off. And I reared back and I smashed this fucking thing into her face with such velocity that a tomato flew out of the side of it. So you got to picture this, right? We're on the grass. My car is in the driveway. She's standing in between me and my car, rolling her. I hit her so hard, the velocity was such of this hamburger that a tomato flew off and hit the side of my car and stuck there. And didn't even fucking fall off. It just, with all the juicy, greasy, hamburger meat and mayo and tomato, it just stuck. And then I, brushed my hands off and looked at her, and she was fucking flabbergasted. Absolutely, you could tell that she had probably prepared herself for me to try and hit her back or to try and grab her. But getting a face full of ground beef and condiments and wilted lettuce was not in it was not in her contingency plan. You know what I mean? And so she was absolutely flabbergasted. And it's one of the only times where I've dealt, and you got to understand, growing up the way I did, I've had my fair share of dealings with drunk idiots. It was one of the only times that I dealt with a drunk idiot that it worked out fucking flawlessly. She stood there for a second, fucking mustard and pieces of meat in her teeth and shit, stared at me, did an about face, walked back into the house. I plopped back down, and now I'd ruined my hamburger, but I still had a fry. So I ate my fries, drank my Coke, and when I went back in, not only were the girls out of my room, but all of the beer cans had been cleaned up, all of the wine bottles were gone. She even turned my bed back. I mean, it was glorious. It worked out perfectly. Unfortunately for me, the reason I was so sick and feeling and needed my bed so much was because I was coming down with mononucleosis. I woke up the next day and felt like I was dying. Literally felt like I was dying. My throat was fucking on fire. My lungs felt like they were at 10% capacity, and the other 90% of my lung capacity had been filled with this deep, dark brown, viscous phlegm. You know what I mean? And my stomach hurt. I had the worst headache in the fucking world, and I was lucky that I only existed a day like that. My sister never came down. I assume she was still pissed because I made her eat a hamburger the hard way. She never came down and checked on me all day, and so the only time I got out of bed that whole day was to piss. And then the next day, my dad came home, and my stepmom came in to my room to tell me something and saw me and was like, "Oh my God!" and took me to the doctor, and I got diagnosed. And it was like a week and a half before I have any memory of that period. I ran such a high fever and slept so much of the time that I have very vague memories from that whole week and a half period. I remember waking up one time. This is really gross, so you might, I remember waking up one time, and my bed was in the corner of the room, so it was right up against one of the walls. And my walls were a normal colored white type of wall. And I remember waking up and having to cough really bad, but it hurt really bad. And I remember going, coughing, and this blob of phlegm flew out and splattered against the wall and kind of dripped down. And I was so fucked up and just incapable that I didn't even care. And so I just left it there and woke up and saw it the next day, you know. But it was a week and a half, maybe even 2 weeks before I was able to, like, function as a human being. And I don't ever remember being sicker than that. Well, we're already at the last one on the list. Have you ever been in a fist fight? Yes and no. I don't know, you know, if people count fist fights before a certain age. I've never been in a fist fight as an adult, and there are multitudes of reasons for this. I'd like to think that I'm not a violent person. I'm not a you know, fighting is always the last thing on my mind, and it's always a purely defensive thing. I've never been the type of guy that gets angry at people and wants to beat their heads in. And that's good, because I don't think I could. I remember when I was in grade school, and in fact, I'll tell the story first. When I was in grade school, I think it was 4th or 5th grade, and like I said, I don't know if this even fucking counts as a fist fight. I mean, it was a fist fight, but 4th or 5th grade, I don't know. It was the day after the Super Bowl here in America, and the Denver Broncos had played the San Francisco 49ers. Now, I'm a fan of neither of those teams, but I'd watched the game, and I was standing around with a couple of my friends just talking about the game. And in that game, the 49ers absolutely destroyed the Broncos. I mean, it was not even a contest. And so we were talking around, talking about the game, and I was like, man, the fucking Broncos got their asses handed to them. And it was at this point that this Mexican kid who was in my class, and his name is TJ, walked by, and he was a Denver Broncos fan every day to school. And this was back in the day before, you know, they banned sports teams at schools. You could wear like a Raiders hat or whatever to school. He would wear this like cheap little Denver Broncos jacket every day, and he walked by, and I guess he overheard me say something like, you know, the Broncos got their asses handed to me, and he said, "What the fuck did you say? The fuck did you say? What the fuck did you say about the Broncos?" And I was like, oh, dude, I said, look, I'm not a Niners fan or anything. I just, you know, I watched the game, and Broncos got their asses handed to them. He goes, "You gonna fucking talk shit about the fucking Broncos right here to my face?" He goes, "Fuck this bullshit." He starts pulling his jacket off. Now, a few things happened. The first thing I noticed was that my group of friends, the 2 or 3 little, you know, white kids and the one little Mexican kid that I hung out with, scattered like cockroaches, all in different directions. And it was before I even had a chance to react to the implication of him stripping his jacket off. You know, they just, oh shit, and they were gone. And then out of fucking nowhere, this entire ocean of I assume TJ's friends swooped out of the fucking woodworks and surrounded me and TJ. And all of a sudden, we're standing up, and he's squaring up like he's going to fight. And it was only at this point, after all these kids had gathered around me and my friends had taken off fucking running, that I realized what was about to happen. And I said, whoa, so what, you're going to fight? He's like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm going to fight you. I'm going to fucking kick your ass. You talk shit about the motherfucking Broncos right in front of my face. You know, I don't know if he was cussing like that. This was 4th or 5th grade, but you know, the kids have potty mouths. I know I make him sound like he's a 20-something. But you know, this is all in how I remember it. I'm gonna kick your ass, man. You talk shit, blah, blah, blah. And so he squares up to me and starts coming at me. Now, I'd never been in a fight before at this point. And so I just kind of like, reaction, he's coming in, he's got his hands up. In reaction, I just kind of backed up and did one of those. I just kind of went, oh, flung my hand out there and popped him right in the lips. And I don't know if you've ever hit somebody right in the lips. Like, not in the lip, like, oh, you hit them and it busts their lip open. But, like, hit them right in the lips. I've never been hit right in the lips. But I imagine, from the look on TJ's face and from other people that I've seen that it's happened to in various places throughout my life, that it's not a pleasant thing. You know, and I just kind of lashed out at him and landed the first blow, but it hit him right in the lips. And he kind of like... And he gave me this look like, in the fucking lips, B? You hit me in both my lips? And that was the only punch that I landed in that entire fight. He came at me with this ferocity that I didn't know a human being was capable of until that moment. And growing up in the environment that I'd seen adult fights, but he was punching me, and what would happen was, because we were surrounded by all his friends going, fight, 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 he would hit me, you know, and maybe I'd block it a little bit, and I would fall back into the crowd of people, and they would hit me in the back of the head and shove me back into the ring. So I'm getting pummeled from every fucking angle. The fight ended finally with him kicking me. I remember being kicked in the face, which is an interesting thing, and hitting me, I think, in the stomach, and I fell to my knees because, you know, it just knocked the wind out of me. And I'm on my knees, and he walks over to me and looks at me and knees me right in the face. And that's how the fight ended. And at this point, the fucking yard duty teacher finally makes her way to the other side of the fucking yard where everybody was hanging out, breaks it all up, and I ended up getting suspended for this, along with TJ. Even though he probably just had some swollen lips, and I looked like a lion had fucking attacked me. I'm sure I was missing patches of hair and teeth. And I went home that day, and I was crying because I was afraid I was going to be in trouble. You know, I was my dad came to talk to me, and I was afraid he was going to, you know, spank me or yell at me. And so I was like, and he's like, look, settle down. I'm not mad at you. And I said, you're not mad. You're not going to spank me. He said, no. He said, you did what you had to do, but I do need to tell you something, and I need you to remember this, and I have always remembered this. He said, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you a secret. Men in our family can't fight. And I said, what? Men in our family can't fight. So there are two options. The first option is the best option, son. If you can talk your way out of a fight or avoid fighting, you need to do it. Because men in our family can't fucking fight. If you're in a position where you have to fight, don't square up with the guy and think you're going to throw punches and shit. Don't do any of the things that you've seen in movies. You climb him like a fucking tree. I don't care what anybody says about you. You claw his face, grab fistfuls of his hair, get him in a chokehold if you can. Don't try and do anything fancy, and don't try and make it an honorable fight. You climb him like a fucking tree, like your life depended on it. Like he was a door, and on the other end of that door is freedom, and you've got to get through that door without using the doorknob. And I've never forgotten that. I've never forgotten that as long as I live. And, I've been involved in fistfights. I've had fistfights break out around me and had to kind of help break things up. But as far as getting into fistfights myself, it is something that I've never had the occasion to do, and more than likely won't ever have the occasion to do, except in the most dire of circumstances where it's, try and fight somebody or die. And if that ever happens, I can guarantee you that I will climb that motherfucker like a tree. I will use every ounce of my fat energy. I will grab fistfuls of fucking hair. I will grab his balls. I will do whatever I can to win it. I've always remembered that. It's one of those core lessons. So anyway, that's the last of these. Hope you enjoyed it. This is Paul in his extraordinarily neon blue sweatshirt saying, until next time, peace.